into the session. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So the topic, I won't say is new. We've been talking about the fact that learning has to evolve, the fact that learning has to change and embrace the change around it. And that's why I have, the sub-bullet that I have, it is that L&D needs to now brace up. And there are several reasons to it that we are going to see as to why does L&D need to brace up. Yeah. First, we'll start with a quick poll, and the poll is around who is the audience here today. 1 second, please. I will start the poll, share my screen. You can go to menti.com and enter the code 68371657, the one that you can see on the screen. I'm also pasting the link in the text chat if that makes it easier for people. Thank you. It does look like we are predominantly L&D audience, and good that there is curiosity among the L&D folks in terms of the change that the hybrid working forces us to embrace as a part of L&D. To create a shared experience, would love to see people on video. I'd like to speak to people rather than just the initials, but totally understand if the network doesn't permit you. Every contribution is valued, so please keep your inputs coming in either through the text chat, and at several intervals, I will pause to see if people want to unmute and share. Raise hands to speak, and Abhaya and Stalwart team, because while I'm sharing my screen, I might not be able to see any hands raised. I would request you to call out if and when there are hands raised for me to, pause and check what is it that they want to share.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
Let's agree to disagree, because what I'm going to be sharing is a lot from my experience. And if your experience says otherwise, we can sure disagree, but let's have the discussion. Yeah, so let's bring onto the table saying that, I've had a different kind of an experience, and something that might have worked for me might not have worked for you, and we all respect each other's opinions and values and thoughts. So with that, let's get started. Here is my next poll question. The link remains the same, and I would request you to go to the next question that says, in the last couple of months, you've consumed more training than in the last 6 months. And you can strongly agree, you can stay neutral, it remains the same, you can disagree or strongly disagree. We can see lots of people have consumed more training. There is a significant number whose training remains same in the last 2 months, and in the last 6 months hasn't changed a lot. There are a few definitely whose training has reduced. But predominantly what we are getting from this data that we can see on the screen is that the amount of training consumption hasn't reduced. If at all, it has increased in most industries, in most organizations. In fact, there are lots of organizations where the investment in training has actually increased in the last couple of months for the next financial year. And there are several reasons to it. We will talk about these. So thank you for your voting, people. Keep this Menti screen open. In a short while, we will get on to a couple of other polls and questions. All right. So we are going through a period of change which has not been experienced by working professionals earlier ever. People call it unprecedented times, unheard of times, and with lots of other names, all to mean that there has been so much of ambiguity in terms of how will people operate, whether from home, whether from office, whether in the hybrid world. So my question to you now is, what is changing for you as an organization, as corporates or as MSMEs? Anything that is changing for you? We're going on to the next. You'll have to key in your answers. If you can help us understand what's changing for you as an organization, as a corporate, as a small, medium-sized industry, or as an entrepreneur. Organizations are moving away from classroom trainings. I so agree. There is such a huge focus in terms of online training, mobile training, bite-sized, nugget-sized training, virtual training, virtual instruction. So the movement away from classroom training was big thing a couple of months ago, but now there is, can we blend? Can we do some part of it online and some part of it in person? All of that is happening. There is more competition within the workforce because the small players have all died out. It is only the strong players that remain, and there is lots of competition in terms of being the better of the competition. Blended training is the way to go forward. Learning model is evolving, more focus on different modes of training, hence blended learning. Totally agree. Hiring is becoming difficult. Yeah, how many of us in HR, a few of us are in HR, right? When we extend offers, people reject offers saying things like, your organization is asking me to come a couple of days to work, but my organization, the other offer I have, they're not requiring me to come to office at all, so I'm not going to join, despite being a right fit. It is becoming important, and the business leaders in HR is depending on learning teams to upskill people within. Emerging technologies, attrition. I mean, there are fancy names given to attrition.
Shanti, Lalit here. Can I say something?
Yes, please.
So it's rather now, earlier it used to be organization-driven recruitment. Nowadays it's people-driven recruitment. Okay,
Absolutely,
it is
it
their
has
choice.
flipped. Yeah.
It has flipped completely.
Very true. Very true. Yeah. Emerging technologies, unless the learning teams are ready to use and embrace technology, they're going to be left out because your audience has already started embracing. Even if within the organization you're not offering them all the technology, they are going out to get all that technology has to offer to them. Attrition I was talking about, I think we've started using lots of fancier names, the big reshuffle, the big resignation. But it all means the same. Organizations are losing people to other organizations. So none of the organizations say, I am only getting people. They are getting people and they are losing people. So it depends on what people find important at that point of time in their life, in their career. They go with that organization. Continuous skilling is the need of the hour. Career development and learning becoming higher priority. Absolutely. Blended learning is becoming important. More expansion in virtual training sessions. Develop learning culture. Learning culture is becoming a big thing. The term, we want learning organizations. And when you ask leaders, what is learning organizations? It is employee driven, self-driven learning is what they want to encourage. Training is now shifting from remote to partial work, hybrid training in the workplace. Absolutely. 5-day working pattern is changing to hybrid model. Blended learning is being promoted. The other day I was reading an article about 4-day work week, even in India, and I was like, wow, that's a big leap. Where our days are 14 hours long, 5.5, 6 days a week to reducing it to 4 days is going to be pretty impressive. And I'm looking forward to it if that change happens. So yeah, thank you for sharing all that the organizations are experiencing. So now, if I may, bucket these the changes into two major categories. One is the individuals themselves, the employees themselves demand more flexibility. Flexibility in terms of working styles, flexibility in terms of working locations, timings, flexibility in terms of what teams they want to choose to work in, what kind of projects they want to work in, what hours of the day they want to work in. So flexibility has started to mean so many things for so many people. The other aspect about fulfillment. 15 years ago, when I would interview a fresh graduate, I never got this question, what CSR activities your organization is involved with. Today, when I recruit freshers, that seems to be something very important. What is the value system of your organization? How does your organization pay it forward, contribute back to the society is becoming so important for the younger generation to see whether whether they will be even able to find fulfillment in working with that organization is becoming very important. And of course, COVID has taught us all self-care, taking care of our physical well-being, emotional well-being, spiritual well-being, all kinds of holistic well-being has become a front and center for employees and for organizations that cater to and take care of their employees. That's one kind of change. The other kind of change is organizations are reimagining how should they cater to this changing demand in the first bucket that we saw, right? How should they cater to that? Some of them are offering hybrid work. Some days you can work from office, some days from uh, remote locations. There are organizations that say, certain roles can permanently work from home. Certain roles, by the nature of the work, have to be at the work location. The borders, the boundaries from where you can recruit and get people is blurring. Earlier, it used to be like people within the city or around the city who are willing to relocate. But with virtual working being made possible, especially in ITS sectors where lots of things were never imagined. I work for a bank. In a bank, we never imagined operations could be fully done from home. And come March 2019, I think it just took us a week to switch everybody to be working from home. Um, which earlier managers themselves wouldn't be comfortable. Organizations wouldn't allow, saying that, we don't think this kind of sensitive work, client data you're going to be accessing, don't think that's possible from home. But we made that possible. So definitely organizations are catering to the changing needs of the employee. So now my question is, what's changing for L&D? How are you experiencing this change? That's going to be our next question. Dynamics of training and knowledge transfer, more digitization of basic learning. Yeah, no, can I access it online? Can you give it to me in audio video format? Is the new demand from the learning teams. L&D is being blamed for everything that's going wrong, and I would also add to it, everything that's going right, L&D is also a part of that. Anything that has happened in the last couple of years, whether it is retrenchment, more focus on DE&I, more focus on hybrid working, enabling managers to working in a hybrid environment, L&D has been a part and parcel of it, and they are overworked, and there is lots of blame going that you could have done it better. More engaging micro-learning sessions is what is required. Visual creativity, absolutely. It is almost like, we are dual hatting, marketing, creative content creators, and L&D. We are dual hatting those roles. L&D has to adopt to change and address diverse needs. Learning strategy, employee learning focus, absolutely. Managing resources virtually, that's what people are asking you to help them do well, right? Adopt to virtual training is a big change, and making the trainees to adopt is another change, absolutely. Self-paced learning, curated learning. Curation is becoming the in thing where content is all available. How can you bring it together, curate it, and create that learning journey for your employee that they're getting best from all worlds, not just from one particular content creator, from one particular speaker, presenter, facilitator, whatever it may be. Learning engagement is becoming a challenge. We will have people who are dialing in into sessions. Very possible half of you are multitasking right now, but the responsibility is on me to keep you all engaged, and I'm trying my best. The learning needs to being recognized by employees as well as business. That's been a huge positive change. And we will talk about why that recognition has come in for the businesses where they do feel that there is a skills gap that needs to be addressed. E-learning curricula, more getting into ROI-driven approach. Lovely. We will talk a lot about ROI because that is a huge expectation from the learning teams as we are performing our day-to-day jobs. Digital tools available in surplus now, and I cannot debate that. And we have to really pull up our socks to learn all of these digital tools, be aware when what tool is best used, when which is not relevant, etc. L&D to be upskilled too. Absolutely. I think we forget ourselves, and I'm going to give this person a big round of applause, whoever has put this. And that is one of my key asks, that I think we are so busy skilling, reskilling, upskilling others, we forget to skill ourselves. And that will show up if we don't pull up our socks right now. Probably we are already too late if we haven't started doing that. Training models are changing, businesses becoming equipped or rather comfortable with online training. Employees want to learn at their own pace. Total personalization, when I want, where I want, how I want, which modality I want, for how long I want. So total personalization of how people learn and how they want to learn. So when so much is changing, I'm going to try and summarize these into a few points, and a lot of it people have already covered. I'm going to call out a few and add a few here. First one is L&D needs to brace up. When COVID hit, I think learning teams delivered par expectations. We helped people, pivot into that virtual working. What does it mean? How can I manage myself, my work, my home? How can I collaborate with my team? Is there a question? Thank you. Yeah, so L&D had to really demonstrate that they are capable of delivering virtual trainings. They supported the businesses left, right, center, and made remote work possible, helped people learn how to work in remote teams, distributed teams in a hybrid environment. Now that we've done that, we've set the bar very high. So now L&D is now expected to continue delivering even when people are coming back, even when there is resistance to come back, or people are wanting to come up. Every organization, the kind of work, the kind of people, the age group we are in, we have different priorities. Some of them are so tired of working from home, they want to get back to work. There are others who say, why should I get back to work when everything can be done from home? I would love to get away from the hassle of travel and pollution and petrol wastage and probably sit in the comfort of my home and get the work done. And that's exactly what organizations want. So with all of these contradictory, feedback that we are getting from our learners, the businesses are expecting L&D to perform at the same level. So we have to be amazing listeners. We have to adapt to change and continue delivering at par what we've delivered in the last couple of years, if not better. Of course, the business expectations are, get better than what you were delivering last year. Next one is employees are reaching out to L&D with a different definition of growth and purpose. As I said, even new recruits are asking, what is your CSR policy? They're asking questions like, what does career path look like? Is internal mobility even possible? What are your retention policies? How are you going to help me learn and grow in this organizations? When such challenging questions are thrown at HR, they look to L&D and say, okay, how can we create a career path, growth path? How can we make internal mobility easily possible? Policies are a different thing. Even getting people ready for internal mobility, that's where L&D comes in. Engagement and retention are a huge benefit if organizations train the people with the right skills. So not just that, L&D is now also responsible for, if not responsible, at least partnering, in the care space of employee well-being, diversity, inclusion. So L&D cannot say these are not my area. So L&D is front and center of all of this change. Then comes business leaders are reaching out to L&D to, I would say, future-proof their organizations. People have started realizing that, there is an impact that the pandemic has caused. There are social, economical conditions that have caused lots of disruption. As a result, there is a huge skill gap. So they're looking to L&D to bridge that skill gap, either within the organization or please hire people and train them and make them day one productive. When I get them, when the billing starts, they should be as productive as any other employee. That's starting to be the expectation of L&D teams. So we have to really gear up to figure out how we can future-proof for the businesses. All of this, definitely, I'm sure you're starting to understand that L&D has become more central, strategic, and cross-functional. And I typically like to add and overworked. And please challenge me if that's not the case here. My guess would be that 90% of the L&D feel they are really overwhelmed and overworked because there is so much to do. There is so much opportunity that they don't know what to catch and what to let go. Why is this happening? L&D leaders agree that they've become far more influential, so there is a demand from the business to continue that influence. The percentage of L&D leaders who are expected to believe that the amount of spends in L&D is going to increase over for the last 6 to 7 years. The amounts they're going to be spending in this year is going to increase, and are expecting that to increase year on year going forward. L&D is also required to support with building culture, whether it is learning culture or organizational culture. The reason being, learning powers culture and culture powers engaged employees, and who doesn't want engaged employees who the organizations can retain and build that culture of stability. And last but not the least, there is this whole thing of digital transformation. How can we make, irrespective of whether you're in an operations role or a manufacturing role or in a management role, not even in a technology role, but you're still expected to be digitally smart. How can we create these digitally smart employees, leaders, operations specialists, and whatnot? That is becoming a huge challenge for the learning teams because they have to bridge that gap. The gap is there. The businesses are screaming that there is a gap. They are not able to find the right kinds of candidates. If they find the candidates are pricey because they get to choose what organization, what kind of people, managers, location, timing they want to work in. And hence there is a dearth in the businesses are looking to L&D to say, can we do something about it? Can we upskill our people to learn more? Learning is becoming central to everyday work. Now people have started to prefer to learn on the job. Don't give me a 5-day course. I will start doing, give me just-in-time help, give me performance support. I'll start working on it. When I get stuck, there should be somebody, something, someplace, some portal that I can go to that and get my doubts clarified and continue working. That way I learn better. And most gig workers learn like that, on the job by doing things. And learning is expected to cater to all of that. Tech-enabled products, I think we had a beautiful comment that we cannot be left untouched of the AI-enabled edtech products that are entering the market. Combined with emerging technologies, name it, virtual reality, augmented reality, cloud computing, internet, I mean, we can go on and on and on. It is important that L&D understands this language. We may not be cloud experts, GCP experts, AWS experts, but we need to understand what that means to the businesses, what that means to the learning teams, what that means to the products, services, platforms that L&D uses to deliver training. If you can share in the text chat, how many of you are using recommender systems wherein the platform itself recommends training based on what your peers are learning? How many of you are using chatbots to push content saying, okay, if this is what you want, here is a quick course that you can take, here is a video that you can watch. A lot of us are also engaging in concepts like peer learning, collaborative platforms where you form groups. We do that even in virtual sessions, right? We put people into breakout rooms, discuss and come back, which is all collaborative learning. And of course, there is lots of curation of content from third parties, which is already there. We know this is best of the best content. Why not reuse? What's the need to recreate all of it? Of course, when all of this is happening, L&D needs to know how to make the best use of it. With so much changing on the L&D front, L&D has to start doing things differently. Yeah, so we are now going to look at what does L&D need to do differently to embrace this transformation. I'll pause here for a second to see if there are any questions or comments before we proceed into what can L&D do to embrace and support this change requirement. I'm assuming not, so I'll proceed. First one, and I think I've been talking about it a lot, that this kind of opportunity was not available to L&D ever before. The pandemic has sped up the digital transformation, and I remember reading a meme on WhatsApp that said, what has been the biggest cause of digital transformation? Was it your CEO, your CFO, CTO, blah, blah, blah. And the last one was pandemic, and most votes went to pandemic. And I would agree. If pandemic had not hit us, we were at least 5 years from now for everybody to start working from home. We would have taken that much time to gather, muster that courage to let people work from home. L&D has a new seat at the center because they've helped people adapt and embrace that change when COVID started, and that's continuing to be the expectation. So please continue to support us is the expectation. So it's important that L&D remains connected, associated with the businesses to support them front and center. Next one, business volatility, employee attrition, and the new demands from the learners, employees in terms of how flexibility can be offered, how can they feel more inclusive, how can they collaborate with each other in a easier, more open format. All of these demands are requiring HR to break down its silos and walls so that they are able to work together. And there is a lot of connection between HR and I know L&D is a part of HR, but within the various blocks within HR and L&D. The recruiters will look at you to say, I'm not able to buy skills from the market. Can you help, build those skills within the organizations? The mobility teams will look at and say, there is a gap of skills in this particular team, this particular organization. Can we move people with a particular skill there? So there is lots of connects that the L&D teams have to offer. And it becomes very important that, the HR disciplines work together and they come together as one strong team, whether it is skilling, employee retention, well-being, leadership, D&I, mobility. Talk of any HR discipline is becoming more and more important, that it is well integrated with L&D. Strategic thinking, I think we've been talking about that. L&D has become a key influence to how businesses are being run. L&D programs are becoming more strategic and cross-functional. Many leaders, unfortunately, have not changed how they are measuring. Number of us still use smiley sheets, still use level 1, level 2 at max kind of a measure. But I think that needs to, of course, for a majority of the programs, level 1, level 2 is good enough. But we need to evolve and start to measuring how has the training really impacted the business. Has the turnaround time to the customer reduced? Has the quality reduced? Has the time to deliver reduced? Has the employee engagement improved? Unless we start to measure such benefits, it the essence of what we are delivering is not communicated to the businesses. 10 people rated the facilitator 9 on 10 has no meaning if that does not get translated into meaningful business results. So quantitatively figuring out the benefits of the learning program has become really key. Another aspect to that is people analytics is also becoming very, very powerful. Yes, there are lots of tools, but people analytics also tells us, how many people got promoted, those who took the training, how many people moved organizations, mobility was made possible, how many people even moved outside the organizations. And organizations today have started taking pride in realizing that people that they trained, groomed, are now leaders in other organizations. So that's become a sense of pride. And I remember that joke. A CFO and a CEO are having a conversation, and the CFO says, "Oh, we are spending lakhs in training our people, and what if they leave and go?" So the CEO says, "You're worried about training people and spending so much, and what if they leave and go? Just imagine the losses that the organization will face if you don't train them and they stay back." And I think that's been the mindset where organizations are willing to train, groom, grow people, and very happily willing to let them go. So measuring what really matters has to become very important for L&D teams. L&D teams are required to unlock key success. I know that's a motherhood statement, so I'm going to try and break it up into smaller pieces. The first one says, stay close to your stakeholders. And I'm guessing all of you would agree, and we would have already started doing that. Being a part of business meetings, business decisions, monthly review meetings, or annual review meetings, or quarterly or weekly, whatever kind of reviews you are part of, strategy meetings. And starting from the very beginning, not waiting for the businesses to encounter a need and tell L&D that here is a need, come fix it. Rather, being a part of the journey itself from the very beginning and recommending to the businesses, saying that to be able to do that, your people will need these 5 skills. So let me prepare your people to deliver better. That is the kind of mindset that is being expected of learning teams. You can do that in multiple ways. Knowing your audience is very key. Understanding how they learn, what is important for your sponsors, for your C-suite. And when I'm talking about C-suite, I think being able to talk the language of C-suite becomes very important. And in our organization, we keep joking that, he or she speaks C-suite as if it's a language, but that is so true. It is important that we are able to talk in a language that cadre actually understands. By definition, they are, they don't have time, they are time poor. To try and, condense such value that we bring into the organizations into a slide or two in 10 minutes, 5 minutes is pretty demanding and challenging. But that's a skill we all need to develop and work through. And when I'm talking about C-suite, I think the CFOs play such a huge role. And let's not forget to capitalize on any opportunity to demonstrate to the CFOs that, the learning is impacting the bottom line, because they are the people who are going to get you the approvals next year for the budgets. So ensure that the CFOs are totally convinced that what you're doing is of value. Of course, every time you are delivering programs, get your leaders to be a part of it, whether they are kicking it off, sharing their stories, being part of showcases and presentations that your audiences are doing. Basically, see how you can involve them, because then they become your advocates, whether it be for other businesses or for the upcoming year. So there are lots. I mean, we can go on. We can probably have an entire session on how to engage with your stakeholders to keep that connect going strong. But I think it only emphasizes that it is one of the most important things that the learning teams need to do. You can't work in silos. You can't just create a program because it has a fancy title, delivered by a fancy vendor, delivered in a fancy way, but it also has to translate into something meaningful for the business. Otherwise, it will not fly. We spoke about the CFO and, having them bought into our initiatives. And that reminds me of Aunt May from Spider-Man, where she says, with great power comes great responsibility. Of course, we're looking at the first 3 points. L&D is very powerful at the moment, but that also means we are responsible and answerable to so many businesses. How and where my money is being spent. Am I getting the value for the money I'm spending in various learning programs? So we have to be very mindful of how this exchange of currency happens and what is the benefit that our organizations are getting, and being able to quantify it and talk through it in the form of, return on investment is key. There seems to be some disturbance. Yeah, I came back to the team and I see Padmaja saying L&D leaders are a part of boardroom now. That's so true, Padmaja, that, L&D teams are a part of boardrooms and they play a strategic role in key decisions that are made by the organization. Next one is activate managers, line managers. Line managers are secret skill building machines. Learning to activate them or helping them or empowering them to develop their team members, coach their team members, mentor their team members. L&D can actually scale up the opportunity, scale up the impact that they're delivering. Only word of caution here is that the current environment, we'll have to be very mindful of how much of work pressure, stress does this additional request of managers uh, uh, add to their stress. They are overworked. There is so much that is expected of them. They are going through the same change, but they're expected to manage team members who are also going through the same change. So it is difficult. Um, Give them time, equip them, give them skills, competencies that will help them grow their teams better. But you may not see that change happening immediately. Again, it's like a culture thing. It won't happen overnight. It's a long journey. But get your people started, get your managers started right away so that we don't miss the bus. Listen to the listeners. I think every L&D leader would say, listen to what your audience wants. Don't give them what they don't want. Give them, show them the benefit of what they're going to learn. Tell them what's in it for them. When we train facilitators, we tell them, right? Tell them what you're going to tell them, then actually tell them and tell them what you told them. So that's exactly, it's important to constantly keep telling the listeners, listening from them and giving it back to them, saying, this is what you asked for, here is what I have given you. The LinkedIn Workplace Learning Report that was released in April 2020 says that only 20% of the learners agree that their organizational leadership values learning. And that's not a great thing. I don't know, when I read that, I wasn't too convinced, but if the data shows that, and people believe that, there is something that is making people believe that leaders are giving more importance to business and bottom line and deliverables more than learning. And please partner with your business leaders, their managers, to engage them actively and listen to the learners to change this perspective in case you want to stay in business for a longer time. Move from learning design to learning journeys. I think learning design was important when we were bringing people into the classroom, and you design a fabulous program and it will fly. But now you can't break an 8-hour program into 4 2-hour programs and deliver it and it is all done. If a person is not able to attend even one of those 4 days, uh, it's a broken learning experience. So what needs to happen so that there is continuity, there is flow, because there are breaks between these smaller sections that you've created. There needs to be something to engage the audience so that they don't forget what they learned in the previous workshop or program. How can they keep that continuity going on? So it is important that we L&D teams start designing learning journeys. And learning journeys is not just about the design, but it is also the modality of in which we are delivering learning. There are people who learn by seeing, there are people who learn by doing, there are people who learn by listening, there are people who learn by reading, watching. So, I mean, we have to cater to all kinds of needs from our learners. The content can still remain the same. That's where designing that learning journey is becoming more and more important. Prepare for hybrid delivery. We can see if we have some time towards the end. I do have some slides around what needs to be done to manage hybrid delivery. But of course, it is not easy, right? Even if in this situation right now in this session, if I had an audience right in front of me and some of you were online, it becomes so difficult for me as a facilitator to give equal attention to both kinds of audience. But L&D has to devise strategies to manage this. And this is going to be the trend where, certain audience will be co-located in one location. Some of them will be online or vice versa. Most of them are online, just a few are co-located, or multiple co-located locations working together to attend a particular training. Lots of permutations and combinations are possible. And it becomes important for L&D to figure out how to best deliver. Do we need multiple hands on the deck to manage online audience separately, in-person audience separately, every location separately? Do we need people who are monitoring the text chat, who are looking at tech issues separately? So we need more hands on deck, and all of this put together will create a great learning experience. If we have time, probably we'll run through that. I don't know yet. We'll see how that goes. Otherwise, anyways, I can share the slides, and Abhay can share it with all of you. It's a very simple set of slides. You'll all understand. You don't need any rocket science to understand how to do hybrid delivery. Last, as I said, don't forget to invest in yourself. While L&D develop leaders are, they preach, they're busy training others. They forget to make time for themselves to grow. They forget to figure out what is it that they will need in a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, to remain relevant, to remain employable. And if they don't upskill, like they're upskilling the rest of the audience, you will find that there is a huge gap, whether it is pay or opportunities, between L&D who has upskilled and who is not upskilled. So with that, I will take a pause and we can spend some time with Q&A, and we'll see if we need to look through the hybrid delivery slides at all. So I will halt here and see what kind of questions, thoughts, comments you have. Either I've been, super clear, or I've been clear as mud, that nobody has any questions. You're making me conscious now.
Shanti, you've been very clear. So no issues at all there.
Thank you.
But I think I just have a quick point here, Shanti. This is Lalit
Sure.
Suresh here.
Yeah.
I think the challenge that we are facing, probably what we did not face much when we were doing in-classroom sessions, right? Today, in the virtual world, the challenge that we're facing is the attention span, right? Whatever strategies we make, be it the learning strategies that we make, right? How do we make sure that the attention, because if you see earlier, the attention span was already less, but now going virtual, it has reduced furthermore, right? So
Absolutely,
what
Lalit.
can we do as L&D leaders, right, to make sure that the attention span is intact, okay, and be it we do it in a bite-sized modules or we do it more hands-on, how do we keep that intact? How do we and moreover today learning has become more as an outcome-based approach. So how do we
Yeah.
make sure that that span and that outcome everything is achieved?
So true, Lalit, and totally agree. Can we ever get at par with an in-person session? I don't think that might be possible. Same facilitator, same content, same way of delivery. In a virtual environment, the chances of losing your audience is always greater than an in-person session. But still, a
Mhm.
few things that can be done, and I'm sure lots of you will also have certain ideas. Maybe we can have the group also share. One is definitely involve your audience, and involve them not only in polls and quizzes and questions, involve them in creating the content itself. Yeah, we could have done. And
Mm,
to give an example, I was checking if breakout rooms were possible for this one. My idea was to put you into breakout rooms and say, can one group come back and tell me how to fix challenge A? We listed first how is L&D changing. No, my idea was, can we put you into 6 breakout rooms and say, one team says, how do we encash an opportunity? The other team says, how can we connect with
mm,
stakeholders, and
mm,
break out into rooms. So that way, when you are into small rooms and working on something, it is not just listening. I think
mm,
the fatigue is because of constant listening. When you are doing some bit of listening, some bit of speaking, then you are engaging all your senses, and hence your attention is far more. But if and that will happen if you're listening to something for a very long time, your attention will digress if it is not,
mm.
amazingly excellent. And it's very difficult for facilitators to constantly remain amazingly excellent throughout the session. Yeah, there will be lows, there will be uh,
Absolutely.
pieces of content. So one way is to
Yeah.
involve them, engage them.
Mm,
Um, One way I have found beneficial is ask them upfront what is it that they would like to take away from the session. And there have been instances where I have figured out that my session is not going to cater to that audience on that day. I have let them go. I've said, I'm not able to cater to your need in this particular session. Let's connect outside, drop me an email, and we'll figure out how we can cater to it. And they were very happy to get back their couple of hours saying, thank God you didn't waste my couple of hours. And that was it wasn't an easy learning. It was a hard way of learning, wherein, you say that now that you've registered, please stay on and let's see what we can make best of it. You can see those audience disengage. You can see those audience disrupt and, create trouble for
absolutely.
everyone.
Absolutely. See, Shanti, I mean, I've been in the L&D fraternity for over 2 decades now.
Mm.
And what I have seen is obviously, what is your takeaway at the end of the session? These are all like age-old,
Yeah,
those, facilitator practices that we used to follow. But
yeah,
today, as I said, if you remember, right, today the recruitment of probably people joining is more in the hands of the person who's about to join the organization. It's not in the
yeah,
organization's hand, right?
yeah,
Same is the practice with the learning as well today. Today,
absolutely.
your learning cannot be driven by the facilitator. Okay, it is
Cannot be.
driven by the people who are listening to you, the audience. All right,
Yeah,
and this attention span is where the disengagements happen and people cut you off completely. Okay, because
absolutely.
it's easy for them to switch off their camera and then get off. How do
Yeah,
you make sure, you put yourself on mute, and then now what will you do? How will you measure the effectiveness of the workshop? How would you measure the outcome?
yeah.
We can't.
And for
And in
that
the
has
virtual
to
world,
be
it's becoming a lot of
strategic
time.
metrics, and strategic metrics are not easy. We've done, research in terms of people who've attended a training, how many of them got promoted. Immediately businesses will come back, hey, it's not only L&D that did it, my managers put in effort, we did this, that policy changed. So it becomes a conglomeration of so many forces that help the employee get promoted. So now we've started doing a control group, people who've not
Hmm.
been trained, a group that has gone through the training, so that all other
Absolutely.
factors remain same. And then we say, slight change here. So possibly L&D has impacted, but these are such soft metrics and can be debated and can be beaten to death on strategy tables, the C-suite tables. It is not easy to debate, but the only way to do is to compare, saying that every other parameter remains same line manager, same business unit, all the other policies remaining same. One group went through the training, the other group didn't, and we see the number of people who got promoted, who moved jobs, who's they bettered their KRAs, are
Hmm.
in the group that got the training, and the other group remained same. So yeah, totally agree.
Right. I mean, for example, I, I don't want to get away from what we're trying to, understand here is, even let's say for example for the organizational specific mandatory trainings also, right? Today as L&D leaders we have to chase people to make sure that you complete the mandatory trainings. Okay, earlier it was better that okay you used to pull people into the classrooms and used to make sure that you complete, right?
Complete and
But
go. Yeah,
and in the virtual world it's becoming a challenge. And as I mean as an L&D leader for us today, it is to make sure that you make it is not a choice today. I can't
yeah,
force upon you to learn something.
Yeah.
Okay, it is your
You
whims
can
and
market
fancies
though. The
when,
only thing you can do is market. Tell me what's in it for me. I may
yeah.
still choose if that benefit is something close to my heart. I may choose to take. Otherwise, I may say, I've got other better important things to do. That's the way the world
Because
is moving.
everything has gone so mobile today, right?
Yeah.
Your LMSs have gone, it's more about LXPs today. Okay. And and moreover, the attention spans are reducing. Your bite-sized modules are not really working out, right? So
Yeah.
it's just a challenge, and we're struggling. And I'm sure, I think I did see a few questions here. A lot of people, we are all struggling as an L&D fraternity today in
Yeah.
terms of maintaining that. Thanks, Shanti. Thanks for
Thanks,
answering.
Lalit. Lovely questions. I
Thanks.
do see a couple of questions on the text chat. Do you see training going back to the classroom largely? Classroom is here. Classroom will not go away. But will it get back to the same old levels, pre-COVID levels? I doubt. But classrooms will have to work hand in hand with, in that blend, with online training, virtual classes, with, project work, with mentoring, coaching. So that blend and that journey needs to be created. Classrooms will stay, definitely not at the same levels of pre-COVID. That's my view. And I think Sarika is agreeing to Lalit's question that it was a great question. Sarika, please correct me if I'm wrong. Uh, Ash,
Absolutely. Thank you.
thank you. Ashita says you've touched upon a lot of aspects. I foresee when people are complacent now with virtual training, how do we draw them to the classroom when things are becoming normal? The definition of normal itself is changing. I don't know what the new normal will look like, and every day the normal looks to be very, very different. Um, and hence, our definition of an effective training, an effective classroom, an effective learning intervention will also need to change and evolve. We'll have to be really quick to adapt and give our learners what they need. And as I said, it can't be one size fits all. You cannot force everybody to come to work. You cannot force everybody to attend the same classroom training. There'll be some who'll say, today I'm working from home. I still need this training. I need to be productive tomorrow. I need to be working on this. I need to be engaging in this technology. Give me this training. So we have to cater to all of that. So the new normal, according to me, would be very fluid, very flexible, shapeless, formless, ever changing, ever evolving. And yes, the responsibility is on L&D to cater to that fluidity. I hope I've answered your question, Ashutosh. I know it's not a very crisp answer because the demand is to remain that fluid. Your thoughts on AI/ML's latest trends? It is supporting. AI/ML is definitely supporting. Lots of platforms, Degree, Edcast, they're really, indicating to learners what others with similar profiles, similar interests, similar skill groups are learning. Once I start learning a particular concept, AI can tell me, like, Netflix, if you watched a thriller, it is going to show you 10 more thriller programs saying that, this series is another thriller, this movie is another thriller, do you want to watch it? So that kind of information that the learner used to go out and source is now made available to the learner. So it's a great thing to involve AI/ML for learner experience, learner convenience. In
It
terms of
actually
L&D,
tells you, sorry, Chanti, it
yeah,
actually
yeah,
tells you the AI/ML today, it has gone up to an extent where it tells you where you stand in the marketplace today, okay, with respect to
yeah,
your skill sets, where you
yeah,
stand in the same industry group, domain group, technology group, where you stand. I mean,
absolutely.
it has gone up to that extent.
And that is a huge motivator. If I know somebody in my kind of portfolio, with my kind of experience, education background, and uh, industry is earning, say, 50 lakhs more than me because of all the learning they've had, that's a motivator for me. I want to be there. I want to get that. I want to start, building all those skills, being relevant. And human nature, right? Meri sari uski sari se safed kaise, if you know that phrase, we all are looking at what are others doing and so curious about who, who who is learning what. I want to learn that. um, I mean, do I subscribe to that? I still believe the best way is to learn what I really need to learn, what I can be benefited from. But it is human nature to look at what others are learning and hence pull that learning. And great point, there is so much of insight available from a learner perspective, and it only simplifies L&D's role. Can L&D really do lots about it? No, it reduces their effort and time in trying to pull together the content and make it available to the end user. Ashutosh has one more question. What can be the role of L&D in the great resignation period, which we are into? Skilling, upskilling, reskilling, cross-skilling, all sorts of skilling has to be done by L&D. Great resignation, in my view, is a wonderful phenomenon. I know it is scary. It is a churn. But it is a wonderful phenomenon because people are getting to do what they really like to do in organizations, with peoples, with cultures that they really like to do. So there is this bubble that, organizations had created. That is burst. It is blurring the what you call boundaries within which people and organizations and employees could work. And I'm loving that. Um, I know my HR is not going to love me for that when I say so, but the reality is, from the employee perspective, it's a beautiful phenomenon. What can L&D do, or what can HR do, is upskill, reskill, ensure that people are getting what they are looking outside and moving outside. Can we offer them here within the organization? A large part of it is money, but people are looking a lot apart from money, at least post-COVID. Money was a huge driver earlier, but as I said, no, starting from fresh graduates are looking for things far beyond what money can offer. Vijay says, time to shift from teach employees to draw them to learn, incentivize, penalize. Yeah, carrot and stick doesn't work anymore. You just have to tell them what's in it for them. How will they benefit, learn, grow? If they consume that piece of learning, what will that journey look like? Sharing success stories of people who've gone through that journey, that can be a huge motivator. When people say, you know what, I've had this benefit because I attended this training program, because I went through this particular kind of engagement with the learning team. This is how it has benefited me. Your next set of batches are full. So encashing on experiences is going to be far more beneficial than mandates, than timelines. First line manager in the first 3 months have to complete this. Rather than that, if you talk to them in a language saying that you'll be able to perform better in your role as a new manager because you'll be able to manage your team, you'll reduce your workload because you'll be able to delegate better, that resonates with them and they might be signing up for programs more. Kiran says, how can L&D help employees to grow their interest in the organization apart from convincing what's in it for them? That's a tricky question, Kiran. It has to be a balance. My interest may lie in learning guitar, but my organization may not be willing to support me in learning guitar. They'll say, what's the business benefit? So creating that balance, telling them what's in it for them, and then, of course, getting the leader buy-in, the organization buy-in, so that the learning is in alignment to the organization. That's also key. The third challenge will come in, how do you make the learning experience fantabulous, extra fantabulous for the learner, so that it makes the learning, it makes the application of the learning sticky. People have attended workshops, they've loved the workshops, the facilitators have been phenomenal. But what happens is that manual or the PDF that gets sent to them gets thrown away somewhere to be forgotten and never ever applied back to work. But learning journeys that help people apply that learning back to the work and measure, saying that, how are you measuring what you're delivering? Has it improved? So, I mean, at ANZ, we follow the, while we are collecting training needs itself, 3 key questions. Without answering them, we do not start working on the request. Is what is the business need this particular developing this skill is going to address? What is the business need this is going to address? What will the employee be able to do differently or better once the training has been delivered? How are you going to measure what the employee is delivering? And we ask, some sort of a baseline data. We do this only for key programs, of course, not for very, elementary basic programs. But for key programs, unless they answer these questions and have it documented, and we get a baseline that today, suppose we are looking at reducing turnaround times to customer calls. Then we say, what is the customer calls duration right now? In how long do we respond to it? What should they be able to do differently? What kind of feedback from the customer will indicate to us that the turnaround time has reduced, has become better? Is it only this aspect of time being reduced, or is it also the quality of the conversation that is improving? So once we gather all of that, and then we have to showcase not only to the business leader, but call it out upfront for the programs when they're signing up, not in the first day. Here is what you will learn. uh, Even before that, here is why you need to sign up. This is what you will be able to do differently if you sign up. So lots of things put together. I hope I've been able to do some sort of a justice, Kiran. And please, others who have certain ideas, do chime in. Uttara, gamification is a lovely tool to use, uh, to be used very smartly. The gamification should not become um, a competition. So, um, in the initial stages of gamification in my organization, we had those point system. And if you complete the first assessment, 100 points. You complete the first module, another 100 points. You submit your learning log, another 100 points. You've done your first conversation with your coach, another 100 points. So there used to be competition, and people would rush to do that check mark rather than find value. So if you can gamify in a way that people find value, it's not about just completing the coaching conversation, but also documenting how much do they have to, um, um, what have they learned from that coaching conversation, documenting that. If that is awarded and rewarded, gamification is a great tool to use, but has to be used smartly. It shouldn't become again, wo meri sadi teri sadi se safed kaise. That doesn't help. And people have come back saying, why did she or he get 100 points more than mine? Where did I lose? It's not about 100 points more or less. It's about the value you are getting in the learning journey. Thank you. Thank you. Abhay, what do you suggest we do? Should I pick up the slides on hybrid delivery, or should I just send it across to you and you can share it with the audience, whatever suits
I
you?
think Shani, we do have about 20 odd minutes left, and
Hmm?
I'm guessing, done with a good amount of Q&A as well. Maybe
Yeah,
we could continue with another 15 to 20 minutes if you think that's going to wrap that up. Uh,
sure.
right. So I think we had discussed that that's about an extra 10 to 15 minutes,
10
right?
minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Yeah,
think that we can I think proceed ahead. I think
we can
we do
proceed
still
ahead.
have some time. We can go ahead.
Sure. I would have typically asked what is that one key takeaway, but I will hold on to that. I will come back to these slides. So, how does hybrid delivery work in a hybrid environment? The first important thing is to understand the difference between hybrid and remote. Hybrid is where remote is where everybody is working online. Yeah, virtual, that is remote. Hybrid is where there are people who are co-located, there are people who are not co-located, there may be multiple groups of co-locations. All of that combination is what falls under hybrid in terms of the learning delivery. And how many of us here have, I'm not going to go through these questions, but if I would have done a session, I would have probably done this. But I will ask you, what has been the most frustrating thing for you as a participant when you have attended a session virtually or in a hybrid environment? If you can unmute and speak or put it in the text chat, whatever works. This group seems to be enjoying virtual and hybrid sessions. No challenges, everybody is comfortable. I found it irritating when um, I'm not a part of the discussion, when it's a monologue from the facilitator, when there are no checks with me, whether I'm involved, whether I'm engaged. Yeah. Mhm. Coming on camera is a huge challenge. Absolutely. It's challenging to see participants not responding. Hi fi Abhaya. That's exactly what happened to me just now. No interaction from the participants. And you start to become nervous, whether have people just, logged in and they're multitasking and doing their own stuff, or are they even engaged and listening into you? Power cuts and bandwidth issues. So true, Shweta. And unfortunately, that is one place where we really can't do anything when people are joining in remotely. Irrespective of best of the network, multiple broadbands people have purchased, there still is a possibility that on that day, in that hour, technology doesn't support you and nothing can be done about anything. I've had instances where people have had multiple three backups for uh, broadband, and they've not had a backup for power and electricity. And as soon as their battery of their laptop runs out, they are out of the session, irrespective of how good their internet has been. So it's not just internet, but power cut and all technology that supports them to work from home on a remote location is equally important. There has always been a gap between hybrid and remote, as hybrid would involve in workplaces, but remote is always online. Absolutely. Formulation, measuring learning, you guys have got the hang of it. Thank you. So in terms of delivery, there are three primary buckets, primarily co-located, a few of them online, or multiple co-located groups, one joining from Bangalore, one joining from Mumbai, but both of them are co-located groups joining virtually a session. Yeah. The last one is, of course, mostly online, where some of them are co-located in a particular location. There is an added layer of complexity to these modalities of hybrid presentations is where is the presenter? In the first one, is the presenter with the co-located group or is the presenter with the online audience? In the second one, which co-located group is the presenter there? Yeah. In the last one, again, is it in the small co-located group or in the online? And that can have a huge impact on how the learning gets consumed, how engaged audience are involved, your audience are. And here is what we can offer, and that's an acronym to make it easy for you to remember. SAID, yeah, support, attend, include, and direct. What does each of these mean? Let's start with support. Is to tell people what to expect before they get there. So it is important to set context that, we'll be having some people online, we'll be using this tool. Even though you are sitting here, you can be on mute, but, all your text chat should happen in the online version. So whatever guidelines you are setting up, call it out, announce it upfront, even before the session start. Do spend some time in the beginning itself to make them aware of what the journey will look like, how they will collaborate, how they will work in teams, what to expect in the upcoming hour, day, week, whatever it may mean. That's the hybrid orientation. What does hybrid really mean and how are they going to work in an hybrid environment? Sorry, I moved on to the next slide. Assign a co-presenter, moderator, producer, whatever you want to call, for each aspect of each aspect of how people are joining. If there are multiple co-located groups, each co-located group needs to have a co-presenter, a moderator, or a producer. Definitely, if there are online and co-located, online definitely needs somebody to moderate, because just think about it. If I'm a facilitator, I'm talking to you online folks, the people in the classroom might be completely lost. And typically what happens in an in-person session, and if the facilitator is in the location where people are co-located, the facilitator tends to see people and talk to them, and their back is towards the people who are online. So it is important that there is somebody online who is engaging, collaborating, answering queries on the online platform. It is important to acknowledge each person by name as far as possible, and technology really supports that. I probably don't know any one of you, but I've been trying to address people by name as the names appear on the screen. Yeah, so that gives that sort of a personal connect. That this, I am being recognized for who I am. That kind of belief is there. Praise and validate participants, both chat, verbal, constant reinforcement that people are involved. A couple of tips here is, prepare and practice technology. How much ever familiar we are with technology, things can go wrong, and think of what all can go wrong. and then plan for it and prepare for it. Yeah. And I know Abhaya would be upset with me because I'd asked him to do multiple rounds of tech and check, whether this thing works, whether that thing works, Menti works, breakout works. And then we figured out how to make best of the resources we have. But it's important for us to know that beforehand, we can't do that trial here in the session. Second one is definitely have multiple hands on the deck to manage each section of the audience. I think these two are very key in order to offer good, healthy support to your audience. Moving on to the attend, encourage peer-to-peer chatting, collaboration, use all sorts of tools for, chat and question. These days, technology makes it easy. You've got, idea boards, you've got whiteboards, you've got tools like Padlet and Mentimeter and this thing and that thing. There is so much available that you can make the environment lively and friendly for engagement and discussion and collaborate and co-create. So make use of whatever is available. Tell them how to use the environment. Here is the icon to raise a hand. Here is the icon to indicate. And Zoom has go fast, go slow. Tell them how to use the technology they are currently experiencing. Use reactions, icons, I'm happy, thumbs up, not happy, thumbs down, clapping for something you appreciate. Even general guidelines like, when somebody says a point that all of us value, let's all give them a round of applause. And, there are lots of these applauses that are going on the screen, and the person who's sharing it feels so much more valued and acknowledged. Use polling, quizzes to gain participation, call people by name. That doesn't change here still. Here, it's important to not ignore any one of the audience, and hence multiple co-presenters, co-producers, moderators is more important for any kind of, session which is delivered in a hybrid mode. It is also important to figure out where the co-presenters are, depending on where the presenter is. Ideally, the presenter should be with that audience which is majority. If majority of the audiences are online, the main presenter should also be online and the co-presenter with the small co-located audience. If it's vice versa, so the whole thing flips. The third one is inclusion. I think I can't harp on it more. Include all kinds of audience. Would be lovely if everybody either keeps the cameras off or everybody keeps it on. Otherwise, there is always this thing. I'm uncomfortable keeping my camera on, but I'm still on because a facilitator asked me to. Others have the privilege. I don't buy into their excuse of low bandwidth, but still they are, getting away with no cameras on. To avoid all of these discussions, level playing ground. Everybody turns it on or turns it off. Turns it off can be very, very dangerous because you don't know what they're doing when the cameras are off. As facilitators, avoid discussions with small groups in person, specifically if you tend to be not audible to the larger audience. It is easy for a facilitator to move closer to a table or a group of people and have a closed conversation, and the rest of the audience, specifically if there's a large online audience, feels excluded. Keep multiple check-ins, tell them how to react, communicate, what's the best way to communicate, use all the web tools. Most of the points are still remaining same in terms of inclusion. I think the two key important things for me is, level playing ground. Don't design activities that can be done only online or only offline. The activities have to be such that it can be played, executed both online and offline, and wherever possible, the groups in which people are performing activities should also be hybrid. I know it's easiest to divide people online set of groups, offline set of groups. You will see that the lack of attention in either one of the groups because they feel that the other group is privileged. So create groups with both kind of audience as far as possible. It's easier said than done. I know lots of you will have lots of technology challenges, but whatever we can do to minimize any advantage or disadvantage to any kind of audience would be great. Last one is direct, be specific, clear, use visual instructions as far as possible. Consider testing all of these activities and technology with a mixed audience present. Remember to see, hear, do when setting up a case study. What do you see, what do you hear, what do you do? ask them that again, wherever required. Put step-by-step instructions of, in case you want to ask a question, you do this. In case you want to, step out, here is what you do. In case you get logged out, here is what you do. And let them know where can they access the answers to these questions, so that they're not struggling if they have been logged out, there's been a network outage or whatever. It is important, as I said in the previous one, to ensure that the groups are working together as hybrid groups, not as online and offline groups. Wherever possible, let everybody log in into the online platform, even if they are co-located, so that questions are posted in the text chat and everybody can see and answer and comment and like and collaborate. So those are some of the things that really work well. Rules for engagement. If we take the first one, where people are primarily co-located, everyone logs into the webcam. All exercises and activities to be conducted virtually, because that's where majority of the audience are. Or even if there is a large audience in person, we don't want to exclude the people who are online. So having everybody perform all the activities online is a great tip. PowerPoint slides, not only for the classroom, but in the platform that is being used to collaborate virtually. The speaker, toughest thing is for the speaker to face the webcam. Unfortunately, that's the reason we say that, multiple facilitators are handy, because every facilitator can cater to one kind of audience. Yeah, those would be some of the tips and tricks, and I can go quiet now. Again, we can see if there are any questions. If not, I think we are done. Sunita says confirmation of the message rightly received, and that's very true. Yeah, this is what I conveyed. Can you replay it back to me so that I know you've got it right? Absolutely. Thank you. Yes, Pratibha.
Yeah, hi, Shanti. Yes, I've been quietly listening to the entire conversation, and it's been very clear, I would say.
I lost your audio, Pratibha. I can't hear you. I'm not sure if that's only me.
Shanti, I just wanted to acknowledge that.
Pratibha, we lost you in the middle. Your audio had sort of uh, gone to zero.
Sorry, audio.
We,
Okay,
we
okay.
lost you in the
Looks,
last 10 seconds. Your audio was probably at zero in the last
Yeah.
10 seconds. So we was just seeing the video.
Yeah.
okay. Are you able to hear now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So, Shanti, I just wanted to acknowledge that it was a wonderful session, very clear and crisp, to the point.
Thank you.
A lot of learnings to take back. Yeah.
I'm so glad you found it valuable. Thank you, Pratibha.
Thank
And
you.
that's
Thank you
reassuring
so
when
much.
somebody comes back and gives you that feedback. It's very reassuring. Thank you for doing that. Any other thoughts, questions, comments? I've just shared the last question on Menti. What has been your biggest takeaway today? If you can put it, it'll come out to be a beautiful word cloud, and we can cherish that word cloud for our learnings. Sarika, you've been fabulous audience. Not that you've not been engaging. I'm sure you were all thinking when you wanted to respond. How can we ensure that participants what they have learned during the training is being applied by them in the roles? A great question, Suvarchala. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I can share with you what we have done in our training programs. So some of our training programs itself have that embedding, and that is easily doable for tech training. So for example, if somebody is learning VB macros, then we give them some data sheet and say a Word document to a company saying you need to use macros to be able to accomplish this on this data set. And there is an expert who evaluates. So that is direct application. There are situations where we also have simulations where it is a simulated environment wherein, Even if they make mistakes and things go wrong, it's okay, but people learn from doing that. That is one. There are certain behavioral things, when a business acumen, strategic thinking, you can't do a simulation there. There we ask people to identify a project in which they're going to apply the learnings, and they do a showcase with their mentors. Specifically in longest journeys, we ask them to do a showcase with their mentors, and multiple mentors evaluate. So it has to be a combination of lot of things. For certain instances, it is simple as, uh, have you done this in your job? Has your TAT improved? Your customer sat improved? Some simple measures can actually tell you people are applying, but there are lots of things that really need effort to craft how you're going to measure. And the three questions, as I mentioned, right? Whenever we are subscribing to delivering training, we want businesses to answer three questions. The last one is, how are you going to measure? That's really important. Never thought about making participants comfortable with the training tool. That can really enhance the learning experience. I use Teams in my organization, and still when Abhay said, I was confused because the Teams interface in my organization is slightly different from Stalwart's interface. And I was like, where is this button? What happens? So even these small things can fluster. So that's why I am a very stickler on, tech review before we go live. So yeah, thanks for calling that out, Abhay. Evaluation of learning, training tools, hybrid. Never thought about making something is going wrong.
Yeah, I thought that. So the same sentence that I've put in the chat box is what I put here to end up as
Got
one
it.
sentence.
Lovely. Thank you.
Yeah, so I
Strategic
didn't realize the
approach
Menti
keeps
leader
us
is going to do that to me, but now what I've typed there is all over the place.
is all over the place in multiple places there. Um, Unique insights, on the job learning, everything. Oh, I love that comment. Thank you. With that, we can wrap up. I will go back to my slide that has my contact details in case anybody wants to remain in touch and keep the discussion going. Happy to do so.
Thank you, Shanti. Thank you so much for just coming in and taking out the time to share your thoughts with us.
My pleasure.
And yeah, and also thanks to all the participants of the sessions as well to kind of come in, participate with us, and just it's good to try
Engage. Yeah,
these
I love the
sessions now.
engagement.
Correct, because now with having gone to almost completely online, right? We're not able to do such sessions offline. What it has done positively is that now we're able to interact with people from different cities in India, at least. Uh, in these summits, but still it's good to kind of keep doing these on a regular basis.
Lovely, lovely. Sure, Radhika, please drop off. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks, Raksha. Lovely. Where do we wait, or can I log off? What's the guidance?
Shanti, yes, I think we can go ahead and log off. I was just waiting to see if somebody still goes ahead and asks some question or something. But I think now we are more or less.
People are dropping off, right?
Yep. So I think we're less than 20 now. I think we did touch about 45 or so at one point. Although
Lovely.
3 or 4 people are from Stalwart Learning itself. So I guess we have about 41 or 42 attendees today, I think. So
lovely, lovely.
Thank you so much, Shanti. Thanks. So I
Thank
guess
you. We'll wrap up. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Thanks, Shilpa. Thanks, Ashutosh. Lovely comments. Thank you. Bye-bye.